The second week of June was a fascinating time for PlayStation 2. By this point in its life, the PlayStation 2 wasn't just surviving, it was thriving. Developers had fully figured out the hardware, and we were seeing games that pushed creativity, scale, and technical limits in ways that just weren't possible even a few years earlier. This was peak PS2 era. Summer blockbusters were hitting theaters, gaming was becoming more mainstream, and the PS2 was delivering everything from experimental mid tier titles to polished arcade style experiences and ambitious licensed games. Welcome back to This Week in PS2 History for June 8th through the 14th. Today we're looking at three games released across 3 consecutive years that perfectly capture that range. From a disaster survival cult classic, to a stacked fighting game anthology, to a Batman game that helped lay the groundwork for something much bigger. Each one represents a different side of what made the PS2 so special. Let's get into it. If you missed when games were experimental, weird, and wildly ambitious, you need to check this out. On June 12, 2007, Raw Danger released in North America. And I've got to be honest, I never played this one back in the day. But coming back to it now, I'm really enjoying just how different it is. Instead of playing a traditional hero, you control multiple everyday people trying to survive a massive flood in a collapsing city. A waiter, a student, a taxi driver, each with their own perspective and story. What makes this game stand out is how your choices actually matter across characters. Decisions you make early on can completely change what happens later, including who lives and who doesn't. You're also managing body temperature, drying clothes, finding food just to survive. It's a strange mix of survival mechanics and storytelling that the PS2 era wasn't afraid to experiment with. Add in some rough voice acting and it becomes this charming, unforgettable experience. Raw Danger is exactly the kind of bold, mid-tier PS2 game that makes going back to this library so rewarding. If you're getting into or just returning to PS2 gaming, this is one you need to check out. This 2006 release isn't just a great fighting game collection, it has one of the coolest hidden features on the PS2. Street Fighter Alpha Anthology dropped on June 13, 2006, and just like Raw Danger, this one I didn't really play back in the day. And honestly, even though I can absolutely recognize how great it is, it just wasn't really my thing at the time. But revisiting it now, it's a completely different story. This package is stacked. You're getting Street Fighter Alpha 2, Alpha 3, and Alpha 2 Gold, plus bonus content like Super Gem Fighter, Mini Mix, and multiple unlockable modes, including Hyper Street Fighter Alpha. It's not just a collection, it's a full-on celebration of that era of Capcom fighters. Everything feels tight and responsive, the controls are precise on the standard DualShock 2 controller, the sprite work looks incredible, and the amount of customization and balance options is honestly impressive even by today's standards. And then there's the technical side. If you had a PS2 with a hard drive installed, you could load data directly onto it and completely eliminate load times. No waiting between matches, no interruptions, just instant gameplay. That was almost unheard of for North American PS2 games. Even if it wasn't something I was into back then, looking at it now, it's easy to appreciate just how much value and quality Capcom packed into this one release. It's a love letter to 2D fighting games, and it still holds up today. Before Arkham Asylum changed everything, this game was already laying the groundwork. Batman Begins released on June 14, 2005, alongside the film, and instead of being just another rushed movie tie-in, it focused on what actually makes Batman unique: fear. You're not just fighting enemies head-on, you're using shadows, manipulating the environment, and creating panic among groups of thugs before you even engage them. Blowing out lights, triggering environmental hazards, and isolating enemies all to play into how you control the situation. The more afraid they become, the worse they perform. Their aim gets sloppy, they panic, and the balance of power completely shifts in your favor. That idea of weaponizing fear would later become a core pillar of the Arkham series. The game also features the film's cast, including Christian Bale and Michael Caine, and mixes in high-speed Batmobile tumbler sequences to break up the pacing. Looking back, what stands out most is how intentional the design feels. This wasn't just a movie tie-in, it was a blueprint. You can clearly see the DNA of what would evolve into Arkham Asylum in just a few years later. It's one of those rare licensed games that genuinely got it right, and it still deserves more recognition today. From the experimental chaos of Raw Danger to the polished combat of Street Fighter Alpha Anthology and the fear-driven gameplay of Batman Begins, this week shows exactly why the PS2 library was so special. The variety, the creativity, and the willingness to take risks is something we don't see in quite the same way today. But I want to hear from you. Did you play any of these back in the day, or are you just discovering them now? Let me know in the comments below, and if you're enjoying this series, make sure to like the video and subscribe as we push toward 7,000 subscribers. I'm Dan Gnadt, the PS2 guy, and I'll see you in the next one. And remember, stay retro.
Midnight strikes!